Hi all, I have a new course on Udemy, a fun lover's guide to the major chess opening traps. Now if you go to my page Kingscrusher TV, there's big discounts for the next 3 days, at least 60% off on all courses, and sometimes more than 60%. So yeah, if you click in, you'll see a discount. So we'll click in, and you see because it's got the coupon code attached, it's actually at 66% off here. So let's have a look at the structure. Now you can see also free preview videos. If you do expand all sections, you can check out these free preview videos. So there's quite a few free preview videos to check out here. So I thought this course would be a lot of fun, and it's kind of greatly relevant to online chess. A lot of traps are fallen into very frequently, especially on online at faster time controls. So I do quite a detailed introduction on various angles of traps, and I notice, there is a strong relationship between gambits and traps, and also between traps and surprise openings. So gambits and traps, I discuss basically there's things like piece activity. A lot of traps do thrive on piece activity, and gambits often provide that piece activity, so it's like fuel for traps. It becomes trickier often for the opponent, especially if their king's still in the center and they've been greedy, and especially if the opponent is behind in development and you've got the piece activity. There are often fantastic possibilities to exploit things like greed or the king in the center, especially if you've got piece activity. So quite a lot of traps are within gambits. Also quite a lot of traps are within surprise openings, because people tend to improvise quite badly when faced with a shocking surprise opening. So I've talked about, those are two key points among these others. So how to make traps more tempting to fall into, the psychology of chess traps, how you can prevent with key preventative moves sometimes certain traps from happening. So yeah, I urge you to check out this introduction just to get a general theory about traps. So I go with white with 1e4, and I cover actually other openings as well. And sometimes I like to show the good news and the bad news of traps as well. So King's Gambit declines is an example of black trying to kind of decline the King's Gambit. There's still traps around, because it's not just a gambit, it's a kind of surprise gambit. The King's Gambit is a surprise weapon as well, a surprise opening as well. So Petrov defense traps, Ruy Lopez, and if you carry on down, there's even traps with black. So it's got a lot of traps with white, and this is kind of work in progress. I can add more traps at any time. So it goes with black against various things. So yeah, it's got a wealth of traps that you might not have seen before. So I do feel traps can actually be very instructive if you understand the patterns and the mechanics of them. They are basically like tactical chess combinations just early on in the game. And by the way, a prior course to this on that theme of combinations is actually something to check out. You might want to also check out, if you love combinations generally, the complete guide to winning chess combinations, which there's there's about 40 hours of content in this one, and it's from classic games. And I try and dissect the nature of combinations based on concepts like leverage. So yeah, if you're into combinations generally, also check out that particular course. But yeah, this traps one, yeah, it's really interesting to investigate the traps and the ones that are becoming more kind of popular in recent years. The Stafford Gambit stands out thanks to Eric Rosen. He really popularized the Stafford Gambits. I believe actually there's fundamental reasons why the Stafford Gambit is so effective, and for that I've just taken some key examples basically, there's so many traps within the Stafford Gambit. I'm just taking some key examples, and you can see that I put good news, but also some bad news. There is a preventative move I go into, an early one, which might actually confuse Stafford Gambit players. So it's good to have the kind of antidote, because the good news and bad news is like, well, that's good news if you're playing against the Stafford Gambit, to have something to play against the Gambit. So I like the structure good news versus and bad news. I've used that quite a bit. So here, like with the Grob, there's also, that's a really surprisingly trappy opening. So you have good news and then there's bad news after. So white black might have a counter gambit, which, you know, a strong counter gambit. So it's all about the major chess opening traps. I would say the more you kind of study your favorite opening, you can find traps within that more and more. The more analysis you do, you can see the more major pitfalls people could fall into, and you get to play those out. So you might ask, should you actually base your opening choices on traps, the existence of traps? So would you, for example, base a black repertoire with the Stafford? Now, I would say that is actually a fun thing to do. I know general kind of advice has been, no, you should have a solid repertoire and find traps within that. But I would say, like for online chess, having a Gambit repertoire, which has a lot of traps associated with it, or things like the Vienna game, that served me really well, or surprise repertoire like one knight c3, which can lead to a lot of traps just because people are improvising badly. Having such a repertoire, maybe for, you know, for bullet or blitz chess, I would say is kind of effective, because these gambits are so dangerous to handle at the faster time limits. If you do have the piece activity and you also have the novelty value as well, and imagine, yeah, a novel gambit in an unfamiliar opening, these can really confuse opponents, and they end up using too much time anyway. Even if they did find something to parry it or refute it, they might end up losing on time anyway. So the beauty of fast online chess is that things like gambits and traps are so much more effective. And yes, I did actually have a course on gambits as well. If you want to check out, I do have a course on gambits as well. If you're into faster time, well, I've got several courses on gambits. King's Gambit one, but there's also the Fun Lover's Guide to Major Chess Gambits, which is at 4.9 at the moment. This was quite a while ago, so it's at 4.9, 14 ratings. And you might want to check that out as well. So there's related subjects of traps and gambits and combinations. You could say they're like a combination at the start of a game, which is like frequently fallen into. It becomes known as a trap. So, okay, and I might actually put some free samples of traps in the next few days and weeks, because they are really a lot of fun and could give you interesting wins. But beyond the interesting wins, also, as I say, the kind of patterns and the tactical mechanics are well worth understanding to be able to apply those patterns and mechanics elsewhere in completely different positions sometimes, but where the underlying, you know, patterns and mechanics are still useful. Okay, so I really hope you check that out. There's lots of free sample videos to go and preview. If you expand all sections, as I mentioned, these free, you know, preview videos are worth checking out. I do hope you might enroll in this course. Okay. Thanks very much.